The users and privileges, I'm not going to go over that material. Please plan to review it yourself. The assignment is pretty straightforward. Basically, you're just creating queries. You can't run them in SQL Developer. But there's some useful material from Oracle in the lecture. So please review those. It's not anything that should trip you up. Basically, you're looking at creating users and setting privileges. It is something that you will run into if you become a database administrator. Maybe. I can tell you right now, most of the DBA, that side of the DBA is being produced by AI. No one's creating users, no one's creating an account. You're only managing it afterwards. So that's my little AI lesson for today. Essentially, if you're thinking about system administration, you're really going to have to change your mindset in many ways, database administrator, or anything like that. But we're discovering that it's becoming more and more prevalent that the AI tool is being used quite a bit in many different ways. So, and we're changing our curriculum. Most institutions, including the Maricopa, well, actually, we've been thinking about changing the curriculum for a while, even before the big push. So you probably will be exposed to that. So, all right. What I'd like to cover is regular expressions. This is something that I used a lot during my DBA days. And basically, it's a way to kind of shortcut a few things to, did I start the recording? Yes, we are recording. Absent-mindedness. So regular expressions are useful. So we're going to talk about the description of this particular tool, how to use it to search and match. In many scenarios, even now, some of the complex search engines, et cetera, uses regular expressions. In the old days, with the console-based searching and all that, and the flat file databases, it was always regular expressions. So, but it is a useful skill to learn. All right. So the purpose, sometimes you have to find and replace a particular piece of text in a column or a string or a document. That was the big usage without trying to look things up, particularly saves you time. Sometimes you might need to look for every complex text string, such as extracting a URL from a piece of text. Yes, AI aside, this was essentially the way that you could go through that, just by defining this whole idea of regular expressions. During the old Unix days and back in the inception of IEEE and POSIX and Unix and IBM, as I said before, yes, I've been around that long. This is basically what we use to do searches. So the use of regular expression is based on meta characters, and meta characters are just special characters that have a special meaning. It's like a wild card, and it seems kind of archaic in a manner of speaking, but it was really easy for the systems back then, or even now, to recognize these meta characters and use them as kind of wild card for searching. And here's a list, not all encompassing, of meta characters that are most widely used: the dot, the question mark, and their meaning. So the star matches 0 or more occurrences, the plus matches 1 or more occurrences, and this will make sense when I go into how the regular expressions are used: the open and close parentheses, the backward slash, the pipe, straight line, the caret /$ matches the start of line or end of line, very important. And then the square brackets, open and close, for matching lists, etc. All right, so those lists of 10 are probably the most highly used, and you get a chance to use them, even in your little exploration. So a simple regular expression is very similar to a wildcard. We're going to take a look at an example. So if we use the dot operator to look for the letter A, followed by any one character, followed by the letter C. All right. So as a regular expression, this would be done as, and in the single quotes, A dot C. And so basically it's going to look for that particular combination of letters. And yes, you can use that in the where clause. And the same expression as a standard SQL wildcard search would be, if we remember the underscore represented a single letter. So that would be the standard in your where clause. Why do we need regular expressions? There's certain things that you can do with it. Just like everything else in SQL, I mean, it creates an option. All right, so with that brief description, if we invoke this regular expression A.C, which one of these would match that search? Which one? 1 through 8. You can call them out or use the chat. Which one do you think will match? Remember, well, I'm not going to give you any.
Would it be 2?
2, okay.
I think it'd be 2 and 4.
4.
And
Any
would it be 8 as well?
2, 4, no. It's a single character, right?
Yeah. So I think it'd just be 2. I think it'd just be 2, 4, 5.
Yes. So 5 is okay. It's just looking for any character, right? It's
Yeah, I'm
uppercase,
thinking
but it's a character.
Yeah.
So 2, 4, and 5. Yes, those would match. All right. And remember, this is case sensitive. So as with SQL,
I assumed it was, yeah.
So yes, 2, 4, and 5. That's the correct. So Oracle provides SQL functions that can be used. So there's other ways to search. And what I'm trying to recommend in these slides, if you have a lot of data and lots of different types of data types, especially large data, you can use the regular expression to shortcut some of the work. All right, and there's also some regular expression functions, and these are 5 of them. Reget, and you can read through these. This one is like the like operator. Replace, search for a regular expression pattern and replaces with a replacement string. So, and then in string, because we've seen some of these, substring and count, returns a number of times a pattern appears in a string. So some of these functions are very similar to other functions, but this is using the whole idea of a regular expression. I will tell you this right now, it's not really a way to, there's other ways to do this that would be less complicated, but this is a good, useful item to know within SQL. So if I ran a query like this, like first name, last name from employees, where a regular expression like, of course, there's several ways to do this. First name, so we're looking for the first name and then employees, and we have, and I'll describe this. So basically, the caret specifies the start of the string, and it's going to look for an uppercase S, followed by lowercase t, followed by lowercase e, right? And then either in this pipe here within the parentheses, that's a list. So it's going to look for a V or a PH. So see, if we're looking for Stephen and we didn't know how he spelled his name, this will find any matches. So that's kind of like an or, right in one expression. And lowercase e, lowercase n, and then the $sign is the end of the string. Okay. So you can run that query. All right. And I'm not showing the results. And obviously that'll come back with King, Stephen King in our little database. But let's say we have several Stevens and we want to make sure they're all accounted for or whatever. That's where the useful of a regular expression could possibly work. We could also use it to replace items in a string. Let's say for security purposes, I used to use this all the time. we're replacing any of these letters. So basically the regular expression, the caret, start of your string, right? And then uppercase H, and then any of these letters following an H, A, E, any of the vowels, right? We're going to replace those two, the uppercase H and any of the vowels with a star. And as you see here, Hernandez, Higgins, Hunold, and Hartstein, now they have stars. And so in case you wanted to do something like this, and before there were specific fields to hide passwords, we had to do things like this, just to ensure there was some security around it. And that's just a regex replace. You can also use the regex count in this way, just to count the number of occurrences. We're looking in this example, the occurrences of AB, and we see in all of these little strings of countries, there's only one occurrence. How that can be useful, well, I don't know. You can figure out something. Maybe we just needed to make sure we recognize that particular grouping of letters. It's a real easy way to find and check things like letters. You're going to see later there's specific use of regular expressions in a check constraint. As a matter of fact, I'm getting to that now. Let's say you want to do something like check an email address, right? So you can use a check regular expression like, and then the email address, and this is just saying if there's not an @ sign in that email address, then the constraint is violated. And this is one of the major uses of regular expressions, just to check to make sure the user enters an email address correctly, using that as a check constraint. This was used quite handily, and it's probably used, there's an iteration of it being used now, just to check the validity of email addresses. And that's another way to use a regular expression. And even you can even check the format of the email. And this is one that I wrote long time ago, just to make sure it has the dots and the @ and it has, I even included the domains back then, .com, .org, .edu. We only had those few back then, but yes, you can build a regular expression just to make sure you can be that granular or that detailed to make sure that the email address is there. So to explain what these are, so the plus, this dash dot plus means one or more characters, right? So, before and after the @ sign, and then the dot with the backslash, it's an escape character, which means that it's looking to make sure there's a dot followed by more characters. So you're truly checking the structure of the email. And that's a very useful, query if you wanted to do that. All right, so that in and of itself, a very quick and lesson on regular expressions. I will tell you, regular expressions are useful. You can figure out the email one is probably the highest uses historically, the highest use of regular expressions. That's kind of transferred into the more contemporary uses in SQL. Before that, regular expressions you can embed that in programming languages with SQL. There's a lot you can do with it. Obviously, you don't really need to do that as much as that now. So regular expressions is a very useful tool if you want to go that route. Now, any questions about regular expressions? You will see that on the final. All right, so the last thing I'd like to cover for our semester is database transactions. Now, transactions, we're going in this as the last thing because if you continue with the Oracle Academy, you definitely need to know essentially how to put more than one query together, and then how to put it together so that you can invoke things like save points and have a the explicit commit and rollback and all that. So the whole idea, without going through the whole purpose, whenever you're, for example, whenever you go to an ATM, there's several transactions that occur. It'll prompt you for your PIN, it'll look up your account. All of these things are like little queries. And in the old days they were. Now they're automated systems using many different aspects, but somewhere down the line, these transactions are actually hitting the data. So just remember that. So if you do anything wrong and you go cancel, then basically you're either creating a save point or doing a rollback. And so what I'm trying to tell you here, usually in a transaction, you'll have several of these language operations in SQL. Now, I forgot to mention this, and in the users and privileges, so you have DML, which is basically manipulating the data. You have DDL, which is manipulating the entity or the table. And then the last aspect that you should know is DCL, and that's essentially the control language, and that's what you use to control users and privileges. So remember those categorical components of SQL, DDL, DML, and DCL. So if you hear those again, and usually a transaction will consist of more than one of these, all in one nice little package. And believe it or not, some of the automated systems, yes, it's granting you privileges based on your PIN. If you look at the ATM example, things like that, and that's what Oracle illustrates. It goes through all those iterations. You in the modern day ATMs, none of the data is stored, anywhere, within the access of the device. Everything is created. You granted privileges, your account's looked up. There's a lookup for your account and what you have access to, the types of an account. It even will take your picture in many ways. So this is what we refer to as kind of a transaction scenario. And I illustrate this in the slides, but you don't have to get lost in it. Just think that there's a series of functions occurring when you put in your card, it reads your card, reads the mag stripe, reads the little, what do we call the little, what's the name of the little smart, it doesn't really read the mag stripe anymore. It reads the little chip, the little smart chip on top of your card. You all know what I'm talking about.
The tap to pay?
Pardon?
The tap to pay?
Well, if you look on your card, on your credit card, well, you have the mag stripe. Nowadays, we have the little
thing. Okay.
Yeah, that's read in addition to the mag stripe on the back, but all your information's in that little chip. It's an actual chip. But anyway, so it invokes all these things that occur based on your information. And so remember, there's essentially two major things that happen. Everything is produced as far as a query. Let's think of it this way. You produce this query, if it's writing to a table and it's creating this commit. Remember, in our SQL developer, whenever you run a query, your commit is implied. So it's whenever you run it and you get the result table, then the commit is actually, we call it a pseudo commit. You can always actually add the term commit, and then basically it becomes an actual true action within your database. But it's always implied in the SQL developer the way it is now. This is the recent functionality, because you can always do a rollback no matter what happens. Even if you do an explicit commit, you can always roll back to the last action. And we went through that a little bit, but usually a transaction you can create. I guess the big thing here is that you can create an actual save point for where you want to roll back to. And that's essentially what happens at an ATM. And for example, you enter in the wrong PIN. I mean, you can only do that a few times, but it's creating a kind of a save point. So you don't have to re-enter in you don't have to insert your card It already has that data. It already knows what's expecting. It's already performed a query to accept your actual pin, et cetera, et cetera. But it will roll back to a save point to make sure you're not repeating your actions. All right, for our example, it's a very, very basic example of a transaction. We're just updating a table, we're updating a manager ID, and we're actually creating a save point after this query. And yes, it has a name, save point 1, and that's how you would indicate it. And usually you don't necessarily have to, it would make sense to label it like 1 or 2, very simple, so that you can remember what you're rolling back to. That's the reason why this is 1. This is our first save point, creating kind of a list of transactions. And if we need to roll back to before this update, then essentially we would just use the syntax roll back to say 0.1 and then commit. So that way, anything, this update is now, we would have to run it again. So this is a save point after the update. So we know that this manager is of department 60. Now, if anything happened before that, we can always roll back to this save point where that manager is always the manager of that department. Does that make sense to everyone? I didn't fluff that up too much, did I? Any questions about that? So in essence, what I'm illustrating here is just a very simple way of ensuring that you can manually create these save points. And yeah, this is very basic, but if you think about it, if it's a many transactions going one after another, and if you continue in Oracle Academy, there's a language that you can embed the SQL in, that's a part of the whole transaction scenario. This is kind of a segue to that, but we're keeping this very basic so you can understand the processes here. So I did talk about the types of SQL actions that you can put together to create a transaction. And remember, it's all of these, and it usually involves some type of save point and a commit, just to make sure you keep track of what's happening within the transaction. And I know there's a lot of text, etc. Essentially, you will get to the point where you're actually creating a script. But for our purposes, basically, if you're running any type of DML, which is impacting the data, you usually are going to put some type of commit or save point to make sure you're not impacting the data, or you're not impacting the validity of the data. That's the whole key. You need to protect the data. All right. Data consistency is just that. You have to make sure the data is not compromised. And that's in the movement of data now. You have to slow that down somewhat, and that's the whole purpose of a transaction. And speaking of data, there's a term called read consistency. Basically, you are tasked to guarantee that all users can read the data, the same data, not necessarily simultaneously, but the way the systems work now, you guarantee read consistency. No matter how many users, they're going to read the same data. That's essentially what I'm stating on this slide. In the Oracle systems, there's a lot. I mean, if you're managing data now, there's so much that the system takes care of for you. I will tell that it creates cache and snapshots and all of that to ensure, because and then the system is running so much faster than, I look back, 25, 30 years, well, even further back than that. I mean, we would have to block tables and all of that, put in constraints to make sure the timing was there with the movement of the resources of systems and servers now. It's really not necessary, but Oracle said, basically, we want you to know that. You need to understand that the validity of the data is very, very important. So And all of this is just referring to if you're running running transactions, and I'm skimming over a lot of this, but a lot of it's common sense. You need to make sure in your own way, if you're an analyst or a database administrator, that you can read through the transactions and know where there's safeguards. We'll call them safeguards. The commits, the rollbacks. Of course, it's not that simplified. I'll tell you that right now. But if you're a DBA, I mean, you need to understand what the transactions, and you need to break them down and chunk them accordingly. And I mean, just illustrating, putting that together pictorially. All I'm doing here is looking at functions, actions, and then essentially how to ensure you have some type of recovery. And that's the whole purpose of this pictorial. You are controlling, so you have to add these save points that you make sure they're there to safeguard the validity of the data. And that's usually what, as a database administrator, if you know that there's a lot of updating in the database, you're going in and either chunking these transactions and yes, it's not that granular anymore, but you need to understand how that works. If you're given a list of queries, a list of 100 queries, you need to make sure that the data is not going to change for any of your users. All right, so I'm not going to talk about locking. This is truly old school. You don't really have to lock data anymore. The processes are so rapid, unless you have 1 million users contacting or accessing 1 million tables all at the same time. Even that much nowadays. We had a test in one of the universities that I was working for, and that was thousands of users, but there's no problems with the data. But there's a way to lock the data for each instance of a transaction before it's either updated or committed. And that's what this is all about. As far as the queries themselves, usually a DBA will have all types of redundancies. We've learned in the many years that there's certain things that we can do before the queries can run. And so that's kind of a nutshell what happens within a transaction. Just know that you need to control the transaction. You need to control every component of it, even if you're invoking your own save points and making sure the rollbacks happen and there's reconsistency of the data. That's all on you as a database administrator. So that's your quick and dirty lesson on, clean lesson on dealing with transactions in the database. You'll see a question or two about that on the final. So what I recommend, I would review this, definitely go through the exercises and feel very comfortable. And the thing of it is, most of these particular topics will not be a problem. It's all the ones from before. So before you open up the final, go back and review what you've done since module 8. There's a module 9. Just review that. All right, so what's left? Final week, final project. Please watch the video that I created last semester. There's just a lot of activities, a lot of processes that you have to complete, take screenshots, and submit for the final project. Just as long as you follow that, it's 40 points. I know it's not a big deal, but a lot of it involves just doing activities that you've done throughout the whole semester. Not a big deal. It'll take, a couple hours at the most, maybe not even that much. I know a few of you have already completed it, but get that out of the way. You have the whole week. Everything is due midnight Friday. All right, May 15th. I do want to remind you of that. That includes the final exam. Remember, the final exam, you open it once. You have 2 hours to complete the 50 questions, a little bit more than the midterm. And it's from module 9 or 8 or 9 on, one of those. But you don't have to worry about anything before that. All right, so let me go into Canvas. And yes, remember we had a Canvas hack just last week, right? Do y'all remember that? And we were supposed to, they're so panicky, well, everywhere. We're supposed to be backing up the grades. I do that anyway, just in case something's lost. And that was actually a hack too, so it was not like there was some mystery as to what occurred. Actually, the system was hacked. The Canvas system, which is pretty huge. You had several institutions that were down for a good 24, 30 hours. And so just think about all the universities and even some of the elementary and secondary are using Canvas. Imagine that. Well, it did occur. All right. So as I said, I'll post this video. The lecture slides are already there. All right. So those of you that are here, we'll get to that. It's kind of a bonus. There's a video on commit, rollback, and transaction. Useful to watch. And users and privileges, that's the first two sections of your practice queries. Please go through those. Your practice and solutions. Oh, no practice queries. But basically, you're exposed to everything that you need to know in these little practice sessions or sections. All right. Transactions. This is pretty much an introduction to transactions. We don't really, at this basic level, we don't really have transactions, but other than just inserting a save point and making sure you can roll back and all that fun stuff. All right, so go through those. The assignment, it covers the three sections. There's once again, privileges, you can't run them in the developer, but just create the queries. There's no need to, and I think I have that on the document. Yeah, queries do not need to run a developer, you just create them, and there's just 4. So that's pretty straightforward, shouldn't be a big deal for the assignment. For the quiz, actually, for attending this lecture, you all get credit for the quiz. So you do not have to take the quiz. That's the bonus for today.
Oh, really?
Yes. If you're already taking it, I know a couple of you have. I'm sorry about that, but that was my bonus since you all have been such good students. You get automatic credit for the quiz for attending the lecture today.
Thank you.
You're
Are we
welcome.
gonna need to email you on Canvas about that, or is
Nope,
you got it
nope, I
covered?
see, you're already marked as present. So you'll see that those quiz grades will be added. I was gonna do a Kahoot, but that's all right. If you want to go in and look at the questions, that's fine. It will not change. Well, just look at the questions. I mean, you can do that. Because as you know, a few of the questions will show up on the final. But those, I think it's 20 of those 20 points. That's a reward for being such good students. And this has been a really, really good class for me. So thank you all. All right. That being said, one quick review again. Please, before you do the project, just watch this video. It's long, okay, but and it's me drudging on, but I go through everything that you need. You can just play it in the in the background and just follow it, but I do go over basically everything you need to do for the project. If you have any questions about the project, I do need to see both the queries built and the results. And here's the outline, and that's what I cover. That's one of the outlines, that's one of the resources. And then here's the other resource, which basically has all the queries that you have to successfully run. But I need you to run all of these. You're building this OralFlix online media rentals scenario with stars and all this fun stuff. Yeah, I need you to run through all of that. So yes, it's kind of an exercise in following instructions. And then you submit it, and these are the grading criteria. So you have all the resources, just going through the work. And I've had a couple of you complete this. And I'm pretty, as long as I see the screenshots of the successful queries, you'll get the 40 points. All right. So that's the project. It's just an exercise in putting together everything you've learned, the whole idea. And then the final, there is a study guide. And remember, just like the midterm, items in bold are covered. So it's module 9 through 14. And so you can print this out or, have it on your phone or whatever. Select statements where in order by, comparison operators displaying data from multiple tables, joins, functions, and subqueries, set operators, union, all, intersect, minus, DML, DDL, and then users. I think I do have this. Maybe I took it out. I think there's one or two questions about users. And then sequences and synonyms, and then the data dictionary and views. And that's it. 50 questions, and yes, we're going to preview it, so take your notes. All right, I always like to preview. Well, we're going to start with question 50, because by the time you get to 50, you're like, I don't know. So question 50. All right, which of the following queries produces this result? And this one is kind of tricky. It's one of those group by and what did I put in this? So I'm actually going to show you. Well, I know the right answer is B. And because it's a group function, it has an average. All right. Oh, it's a roll up. It's a roll up or cube. Those are always very tricky. But so it's either going to be A or B. If you don't have, and you should recall that if it's a group by, if you don't have the aggregate function in there, then it's going to create an error. So let's make sure I'm right here. I say it's B. Since you, and you see, yes, we did get the result of the table. If I can manage this. So yep. Does everyone see that? So,
Yeah.
remember, question 50 is B. So there, and you only have 49 to do. Cancel all. And then, so someone pick one or two more questions. Someone pick one.
27.
27. All right. Which of the following statements will perform an automatic commit? Select, insert, create table, merge. Automatic commit. That was in one of the lessons way back. Which one of these? Anyone want to guess?
C? Create table?
Create table.
Create table.
I think that is it, yeah.
Does everyone agree with that?
It was either going to be that or merge for me, because I know the first two don't do that for like a fact.
Create, select, or insert don't.
Yeah, I know for a fact those don't. So it was either that or a create table or merge. Create table sounds more correct.
If I remember correctly, let me just check here.
Isn't it merge because don't tables have to start with a letter? So it's not like it would create a table automatically, even if it didn't
No.
meet the criteria.
Well, create table is the start of the create table clause, SQL clause. So we'd have to have a name of a table there. So technically that statement is correct. Where are we? 27. All right, let me make sure. Which of the following automatic commit? So the answer is create table. You're correct. Whoever chose that, that is the correct answer. All right, one more. You still there? All right, one more. Choose one more.
Number 33.
Which command will remove an index from the data dictionary? Remove an index. Which command removes an index?
Drop.
Drop? Someone said drop, is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's drop.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
I want to say it is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's drop too.
Yep.
I think it
it
might.
is.
I think it might actually be delete. Where's the drop?
No, drop. You can't
no.
roll back. So it's gone
Are you-
forever.
That's a fair point.
Well, there were special conditions for an index, right? So, or were there special conditions to drop an index? And this is just removing it from the data dictionary. Yeah, it's drop. Yeah, delete, remove, purge, or remove and purge are not. So it's either delete or drop. These are not SQL commands. So 33 is drop. Hopefully you're writing these down. Okay, I'll give you one more.
Can we do 13?
Is that your unlucky 13? The DBA executes the following statement: create user thread identified by Oracle. Which of the following statements are true? A new user named Oracle has been created. A new user can connect to the database. The DBA can grant system privileges to the new user. The statement syntax is incorrect and generates an error. So which one of those are correct? About 13.
Funny how it's a question that we didn't go over today.
We didn't go over it, but here's an easy way to get the right answer.
It's the second one, right?
The new
wanna-
user can connect to the database.
I want to say it's 3 actually.
Yeah, not necessarily. So user thread was created user thread identified by Oracle. So, it doesn't really, what does he need to actually access the database?
Password.
Permissions.
Mhm.
Privileges. And we didn't go over that, but yeah, so he would have to grant him privileges to access. So it's C.
Oh, okay.
But he can't grant privileges until he creates the user. That's the key there. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so that was how many questions in the final? 4. Hopefully you wrote those down. Who wrote those down? None of you
Yeah.
wrote.
I
down.
did.
Wait up.
I wrote them down.
All right, so all that's left, you just need to do the assignment. You're just writing queries. You don't have to worry about the quiz. You all get credit for the quiz and the final. Take your time. Just don't try to do it at 10 p.m. on Friday. That's too late. That's waiting way too late. And you just have to finish it. So take your time. Our class ends Friday at midnight. I'm going to try and get the grades posted sometime Saturday. If you have any issues, please let me know. We're supposed to be very cognizant of Canvas since everyone's very suspicious about, although Canvas is a lot more stable than most learning management systems. But anyway, any questions or comments or concerns about the last week finals? It can be stressful, but don't stress it out. Please, no need.
Funny enough, I think I actually got an email from, or I don't know, like all I know is I got an email from it claimed it was from the school, said it was like for my financial aid, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I
no,
obviously
You can't trust those emails right
Yeah,
now.
don't-
Sent to
don't
Oh yeah,
trust
no,
any-
no,
yeah.
no. Believe me,
So-
believe me. When I first heard about the hack thing, I was like, all right, bet I'm changing my password.
There
I'm
you
putting
go.
this on, I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
There you go. So suppose, and it was someone that clicked on a phishing email that started it. For what they found out, it was reverse engineered back to a phishing email that was launched. But they sent that to everyone in the Maricopa Community College. So you're talking about thousands of users. So, but someone, or maybe more than one, clicked on that. So, and then they
Yeah.
just laterally moved and then moved for. But well, actually, it may not have been Maricopa. It could have been any, and that's millions of users for Canvas. So be very careful. That's it. Thanks, Matt. Be cognizant. Don't be complacent about security. And check your emails if it's unexpected, especially if they're asking you to change your password or put in, your bank account information. No, banks don't do that anymore. They do not. They don't send you an email. They tell you to come down to the branch. But so yes, please be careful. All right, so Daniel just put the answers to our questions. You all should thank him.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Daniel.
thanks.
That you got
Thanks, man.
credit for. So you only have 46 to do now. And you can handle that in 2 hours. So once again, you get 2 hours for the final. Take your time, do a little bit of studying, don't cram, that doesn't do anyone any good. You'll be able to answer most of the questions without hesitation. The rest, just think about them a little bit, not too much. Don't overthink them. Evan, don't overthink them. You do that a lot. So, or anyone else, don't overthink the questions. Just read them, make your answer, trust your first response, and then go on. That's test taking 101.
It's actually
Okay, then.
one of my.
Yep.
Nice.
All right, so I do appreciate this. This was one of my best classes, and I don't say that every semester. I'm actually teaching 2 sections in the fall, one hybrid, one online. But overall, you guys did. So don't let me down in the final. Don't slack off. Finish strong. Yeah, if everyone gets, lowers their grade by one letter, that's not so good. I did have one class. They were all going in with A's and B's, and then only 2 of them came out with A's. So because of the final, it's not supposed to be tricky, and it's only tricky if you overthink it. So, and I actually went in and cleaned up a lot of. There's a few that are a little questionable, but most of them you can get by without an issue. So it's a typical final, typical college final. We're not supposed to make it too easy, right?
Mhm.
All right. Anything else? So the whole users and privileges, please review the lecture material. Go through
Mhm.
sections 1 and 2. It's not too bad. But I'm reviewing the grades now, so you can still access that extra credit opportunity if you want. That's a quick way to add points if you need them. And other than that, the only thing that's left is the project and the final. Okay.
Mhm.
And I've had 2 people finish the final. And well, I'll just say 2 people finished. All right, and I'm still available via Canvas message or whatever if you need to ask a question. We're ending tonight, but the class doesn't end until Friday. All right,
Perfect. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you, Daniel. We'll
Thank
say,
you. Have a good
Thank
Thank
night.
you for everything.
everyone,
Yo,
take
Thank
care.
you, sir.
thank you.
Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
summer.
All right.
Oh wait.
All right. Take care.